Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to your April virtual user group. Today we are talking all about data engineering. We have Porter and Anita on the line with us today, and they both have some exciting things to share with you. So we will dive into that here shortly. Just a couple of housekeeping for today's webinar. Just as a reminder, the webinar is being recorded. You will receive a copy of that recording either today or tomorrow, depending on how long it takes to get the recording done, and along with any material that the presenters are sharing with you guys. If you have any questions for Anita or Porter throughout the presentations, please use the Q&A feature. They will be monitoring that and taking those questions as you submit them. So don't be shy, feel free to ask away. And with that, I have a couple of things to go over with you guys, some resources that we talk about at the beginning of these, just as a reminder of what's out there and available to you. So let me dive into those here. All right, so ibi.com, we've been pushing the new website for a while now, so I hope you guys are comfortable and utilizing it as your go-to place for all things IBI. Out here, you have access to the events, to your data sheets, any new product news. You can access IBI support out here, the e-delivery, community, and then coming shortly, we will also be able to link the new education platform out here for you guys. So you'll be able to access that from the website as well. So be sure that you are using ibi.com. As I mentioned, you can access the support portal from ibi.com. So if you have a question or have an issue, please utilize that support option. Also in the support portal, you're able to access documentations, our product downloads, new product information and announcements are out here. And also just general popular, how-to content. So if you're looking just for a quick how-to and would like to know more information, you can find that out in the portal as well. All right. The e-delivery, if you are looking to download the latest product versions, you can navigate out to the e-delivery and do your own downloads and choose between all of the IBI products. I know the screenshot shows TIPCO here, but it will take you to the IBI e-delivery there. All of our webinars, under the events section, you can register for all the upcoming virtual Focus Fridays, virtual user groups. We also have our in-person events, so you can register for those. We have the upcoming IBI Golden Summit in October. Registration is open for that. As well as you can view all past recordings in the on-demand section. So any past Focus Fridays or virtual user groups that you might be looking for or would like to revisit, you are able to access all of those recordings under that section. So speaking of summit, we have our IBI Golden Summit coming up in New York on October 14th. We're super excited about this as we are celebrating 50 years of IBI, and so this is definitely a special milestone. We've got a few special treats for you guys that will be at this summit. So I'm hoping you guys are able to attend. As I mentioned, registration is now open and the agenda will be available shortly. You will have a sneak peek into the agenda here in the next week or so, and then the full agenda will be available here also very shortly as well. So hopefully you're talking to your management, talking to your team, seeing if you guys can arrange to get to New York, because we would definitely love to see you on October 14th. The IBI community, another fantastic resource that's available for you guys if you are not familiar with it or have not been out there yet. Simple access through community.ibi.com. If you held an account in our old community, it says just simple login with your simple login and just reset your password. If you need help joining community, shoot me a message. I definitely can help get you in there. But yeah, this is a great resource that you can get connected with all of our IBI experts as well as your peers. We've got an awesome conversation thread going on out there. We have articles written by the IBI experts, a lot of how-tos and cool, knowledge-based type topics. All the different IBI products are covered. It's very user-friendly to be able to navigate and find the different IBI products. And plus, you will see the new articles every week. So there's some new articles out there, some new announcements, and a lot of great conversations going on with your peers. So if you're not in community, we do encourage you to join. And then a quick IBI education update. So our platform is now available. It is up and running, and you guys are able to access that. There are several steps here to access the platform. You will need a TIBCO account. So if you have submitted a support ticket, if you have been in e-delivery, then you probably do have a TIBCO account. So that is the login information that you would use to request to get into the platform. If you do not have a TIBCO account or don't know if you have a TIBCO account, you can simply register for one, and I've included that link here. If you were in the previous training platform, if you've taken any courses with us before, you do already have a login, and then you can just go directly to the new platform and log in there. And then if you were not in the platform or just having general trouble accessing the platform, you can submit this a Google form that we have available to gain access to that. So I know there's a lot of steps there. Just a heads up, we are going to be putting together a quick education virtual user group coming up in the next couple of weeks that we are going to walk you through all of this, how to gain access, and then once you're in the platform. So bear with us as we iron out all of the getting started part of this. If you have any questions at all, please email education@ibi.com, and we're happy to walk you through it and help you get access to it. But the training is available. And so we are excited that we have this available to you guys. You guys have been asking for it for a while. And then every quarter, there will be new courses that are put into the platform. So constantly refreshing. So if you have any questions, let us know. And we hope that you enjoy the training that is available and ready. Getting social with us. If you are on any of the following social media accounts, we'd love for you to give us a follow. LinkedIn, X, and YouTube. Also on our YouTube channel, we do post the recordings from the virtual user groups and Focus Fridays. So another place that you can revisit those recordings. And just following us on LinkedIn and X keep you in the know of all things IBI. And then to make sure that you are also receiving all of our invites, our newsletters, make sure that you check your email. Let us know if you're not sending them. You're not receiving them. I'm happy to add you to the mailing list. We have a monthly newsletter that goes out, as well as all the virtual user group invites, the Focus Friday invites, the summit invites, all of those kind of things. So if you're not receiving anything from us, please let me know. Real quick, I'll highlight this for Hannah on the upgrade program. So as a reminder, we have the program to move to 9.3. So if you're thinking about moving to 9.3, now is the time. This program offers a very seamless way for you guys to do that. And so if you're interested, I know Hannah is running this project, and she's more than happy to answer any questions and get you guys up and running and see where you guys fall in with this product. I'm sorry, with this program. Excuse me, I cannot talk this morning. You'll head out to our website, ibi.com, and register for the program. You will get access to the discovery tool, which kind of gives you some insight. And then you'll do a self-assessment, and that will kind of give you your score and see where you fall. And then we hold your hand through the whole process. And you also will be working with our partner Amtex through this process as well. So we do all the work for you guys. We just want you to upgrade to enjoy all of the new features that are coming and all of the new cool stuff that 9.3 and beyond will be offering. All right, so register if you're interested, and I'll provide you with all of these links for that. And with that, I will turn it over now to Porter. If you guys have any questions about anything I showed, please feel free to reach out to me. Happy to answer any of that. And Porter, over to you.
Cool, thanks, Shay. Let's get this going here. Great to be with, great to be here. Great to be with everyone and see a lot of familiar faces on this webinar. So the topic today is data engineering. And the reason that we're doing this is, for a couple reasons. For a long time, we've always kind of touted the strength of our data, support for complex data, data integration, um, really our capabilities, across the data spectrum. And we know it's in use heavily by IBI customers, absolutely being used a lot by WebFOCUS customers or customers of our mainframe solutions or data intelligence. And one of the reasons that we wanted this to be the topic today is not just for those reasons, but one of the advisory services analyst firms that we contract with is Dresner Advisory Services. And it's led by Howard Dresner. He's, been a kind of a long time supporter and advocate of the importance of a lot of the types of things that are important to us and WebFOCUS customers. And his advisory firm, they write a lot of reports. The flagship report is called the Wisdom of the Crowd Survey. You've probably seen it. We've probably shared some of our ratings in that, but they're much bigger than that. I want to say they might have as many as like 35 analysts, and they write hundreds of reports every year. And the reports are based on surveys filled out by vendors and surveys filled out by organizations and customers. And so one of the surveys that we filled out several months ago was around data engineering. And the results of that survey were released, I want to say maybe 6 weeks ago. Um, and we placed well, and we thought that would be a good time to put together something that's a combination of sharing some of the interesting findings that they found out, and then kind of reviewing our capabilities in data engineering. What products are at play? What capabilities do we have? Why is it so important to your success with a web-focused deployment or any analytics and business intelligence or data science use case that you might have? I'm going to start by going through some of the interesting findings of that report and how it relates to us. And then Anita's got a great demonstration and presentation of some of, the products and capabilities at play. So, for me, like I'm a WebFOCUS guy, I mean, I've got pretty good familiarity now with our mainframe solutions and our data intelligence solutions. But I've been at it with WebFOCUS for 25 years. And so it often all comes back to that for me. And so why is data engineering important? When we think about what are the WebFOCUS key differentiators, to me, these are the top 6 WebFOCUS key differentiators. You'll notice data engineering is one of them. Absolutely. But why is data engineering important? And at a high level, data engineering is you're engineering data workflows or pipelines between analytic data management infrastructures. The most popular example that everyone's familiar with is building a data warehouse, but it's much more than that. And so if you want to have strong capabilities in reporting, if you need to create a high volume of interactive reports, operational reports, financial reports, if you need to create dashboards, schedule and distribute information, embed that information into other systems, the foundation for success for any of those key use cases across analytics and business intelligence absolutely starts with the data, okay? And that extends to applying things like security and governance on your infrastructure or on that content in terms of deploying it. Really, the foundation of that, it does start with the data. So let's go a level deeper. Like, what do we really mean when we say data engineering? That's such like a high level, all-encompassing topic. So let's drill into a little more detail. For us and for years, I heard from Dresner, I heard from Gartner, from Forrester, from Bark IDC. All of these analyst firms were recognizing the IBI solution on what one firm termed support for complex data. And I love that term. Okay. And so IBI support for complex data, it starts with, there's a lot of factors at play. But to me, what I've seen is it all starts with data adapters. Okay, we've got a broad set of data adapters. And the advantage that we see with our data adapters compared to the competition is that many competitors, all the data adapters are what I would call generic. So it's a JDBC or ODBC type connection. We know that a lot of our adapters are native, and that means it's a higher quality adapter. It's probably taking advantage of specific characteristics or advantages that a specific database would have. Okay. Whether that be for performance or caching or relationships, um, or whatever else, we see that the quality of the adapter and then the diversity of the adapters that we support, right? So it's not just kind of like the most popular relational databases or cloud databases. We know that we've got broad support for a lot of third-party, open source type of data, in addition to all of those mainframe adapters, 25 native mainframe adapters as well. So breadth, diversity, and strength of these data adapters, it all starts there. We really believe we can get to anything. But then it is, at the next level, it's the metadata. So the metadata layer is also what we see as somewhat of a unique advantage over a lot of other solutions as well. Because the metadata is going to allow you to do a number of things. So it's going to allow you to navigate complex structures. A multi-fact star schema would be one example. A lot of times you may need to join different data sets. Those data sets may live in different systems or in different environments. We support heterogeneous data access. The other thing that the metadata will do is will help you navigate a lot of problems or complexities that arise in data. Navigating a fan trap would be one example. And then the metadata is just, built in a way that it's visual and it allows you to perform transformations, group and replace, pivoting, binning of the data, leveraging a catalog of over 100 pre-built functions. It's graphical. You can profile it. You can kind of visualize it, run impact analysis, and there's a lot that you can do with the metadata. So for me, like forgetting about everything else that we're going to actually go through, data adapters and metadata live at the heart of our support for complex data. As we get into engineering data pipelines, this is where our Data Migrator solution, I think, is a key component, okay? And that's our ETL or ELT solution. It's what's going to allow us to analyze and consume, connect to and consume all of those source systems, and then graphically build those pipelines, build those workflows, schedule them, monitor, alert them, govern them, and load those source systems for a variety of use cases. And why are we doing this? It's not just to support BI and analytics use cases, but I think for the vast majority of WebFOCUS customers that are using our capabilities in data engineering to support BI and analytics use cases. We touched on a couple of them, like reporting, dashboarding, embedded BI, scheduling and distribution. There's more than that as well. There's geospatial, there's a lot of data science and machine learning use cases that come up. And of course, there are other non-BI and analytics use cases that data engineering is super important for. So drum roll, please. This was the results of the Dresner Advisory Services Data Engineering Survey. And, we're very proud to come in tied for second place amongst, the who's who of the best and biggest vendors in the market that have the strongest data engineering vendor ratings. You can feel confident that IBI has one of the best, if not the best, solutions for data engineering to support these use cases. And the other thing that we're proud of is getting, we've always been saying this is a strength of ours. We are better at this than maybe some other competitor solutions that are coexisting in your organization. And so it's nice to get third-party validation. It's not just Porter. It's not just Dan Ortolani or Anita or Shay or someone else saying, hey, we're better because of X, Y, and Z. This is third-party validation based on a survey of customers and organizations, like not just IBI customers, you know what I mean? And these are all Dresner Advisory Services customers replying based on their usage and experience of these solutions. We're not going to, I think, break down into different categories, but I think the total categories are important in terms of at the highest level, what's important for data engineering, development and usability, processing and transforming the data in data sources and targets. I focus more on kind of the total score. We could kind of zero in here and analyze on these, but to me, it's the totality and the breadth of the solution. We look at a lot of the firms that we come up against in our organizations, Click, Tableau, and Microsoft. You can kind of feel confident that this is a real strength of the IBI solution compared to those firms. So one of the things I've always loved about reading analyst reports is, I'm consumed in the IBI organization and our customers and our product and what we're doing. And I've got great awareness of the market and competitor solutions. But I always find it interesting to read the findings of just other companies and organizations that are large, that have strategic investments in data and analytics solutions, and what the findings are. That's one of the strengths really of consuming analyst and advisory material. And I was enlightened in several areas, and I'll share some of those findings with you now. So, I think I've kind of given you an intro into what data engineering is. Dresner would say it's the creation of data workflows and pipelines between operational analytical data systems. We can think of it at the highest level right there. And it goes in a lot of different directions, like from our perspective, we think of data adapters, metadata, and Data Migrator or ETL kind of being core components of a data engineering solution, but it is not limited to that. If you're familiar with some of our data intelligence capabilities, this is where data engineering absolutely includes some of those capabilities, not a requirement, but like data orchestration, or kind of like automation type of capabilities that iWay Service Manager through application integration is very good at, could be of interest here. The integration of these different sources, which we can do in a variety of ways, whether that be, with kind of Data Migrator or other capabilities, as well as transformations that we see as capabilities across the product. We know that we can do transformations in the metadata. We know that Data Migrator is very strong at that, as well as advanced analytics. And this could be data science. Which we have great support for. This could simply be kind of like advanced statistical type of things. This could be some of the calculations or functions that we support as well. And then this is really, I believe, pretty specific to Data Migrator, but we do see this in iWay Service Manager sometimes. So it's, we're creating these workflows and these pipelines, and there's a lot of kind of administrative and security related capabilities that are kind of as important or second in importance only to the user experience and the capabilities to create the workflows. And so once you develop it as, hey, how do we debug issues that we have? Okay, I want to schedule it. I want that, I want the data warehouse to be updated every night would be one example. Security and governance. So that could be masking data. That could be ensuring that data does not make its way into a target system, accessible by people that they're not allowed to see, or additional governance around, security policy for the organization. But it is largely to support BI and analytics use cases. And then unsurprisingly, the deployments could be very specific to a specific use case. I think a good example of that is a lot of data science use cases are very specific. I need a very specific data set, like let's say customer segmentation, to support a data science, training and modeling exercise. Or it could be more broad. I think a data warehouse serves a lot of different BI use cases. I think of some of the customers I work with, banks that have very large scale customer-facing applications, that is a large type of deployment around data engineering to support. Like we've got customer-facing applications that have 17 million users, 5 million users, so you can imagine how kind of the scale of a data engineering exercise to support something like that. Some other findings that are important, I think, unsurprisingly, hey, how important do people feel data engineering is? This year, 81% of the respondents said it's either critical or very important. And that's up 4% from just a year ago. And I expect that number to climb. And I think, the increased importance, why is it increasing importance? I think a lot of it is actually related to new data science and machine learning or Gen AI initiatives. But it is also like the number of analytics and business intelligence use cases, whether that be enterprise reporting platform or modern BI, those continue to increase as well. And then it's also just kind of all of this additional data that's coming online that organizations are consuming and having to manage, the volume of that data increasing, the variety of that data increasing. These are all good reasons why data engineering is increasing in importance. And I'd love to know who the organizations are, the less than 1% that indicate it's not important. That's interesting to me. I'd be curious what is going on with those organizations. Some other findings that are interesting. They're absolutely used for multiple BI use cases. 32% of people are actually using them primarily for more like integration and cleansing type of use cases, okay, which are obviously important to support BI and analytics as well, and that we have solutions in. So we're kind of happy to see that and to hear that. But it's integration, cleansing, and transformation for data warehouses supporting these use cases. So, can you build a good data warehouse without things like integration and cleansing and transformation? I think the answer is no, but I think most people, when they think about a warehouse, they think, okay, we've got a source, we've got a target, there's transformations going on, and probably most people would agree the integration and cleansing of those are important as well. 22% of people are using it just to move data between systems, maybe not to build a data warehouse, maybe not, for like kind of core BI and analytics use cases. And then unsurprisingly, a trend that's emerged is with the increased use in data science and augmented analytics, a lot of people are replatforming or replicating existing sources or warehouses to support some of these new DSML initiatives as well. Some additional findings, which is, okay, Porter, like what are the top capabilities that people are using? And it's back to the future. This is simple. This is core. Aggregation and grouping of data for ETL and ELT workflows. Okay, so that makes sense. And then it gets into the management, alerting, job monitoring, execution, event-based scheduling. One thing I found interesting was at the bottom of the list was support for things like real-time and streaming sources of data. Not that it's not important to have those capabilities, not that they're not happening, but it was actually at the bottom of the list for data engineering. They're not being used a ton in these data engineering workflows. So here's a visual of one of those findings that I shared earlier. This is the 81%, 81.4% to be precise, that find it important. You can see very few people find it somewhat important or not important as well. I found this interesting as well. Where is it being used most often, or where do people consider it most important? 100% of the data science function, critical. It is critical. And then business intelligence and analytics, competency center, and strategic planning are also between critical and very important, close to 100, followed by kind of IT. Last is finance and operations, despite them still, kind of saying it's very important. And then the importance of data engineering by success with BI. People that experience the most success with their business intelligence deployments, how important was data engineering to those? You can kind of see extremely successful. It's either critical or very important, and very successful, a lot higher. And then people that are having less success, with their deployments, or do not place as high in importance on data engineering. What are the top use cases in data engineering? To me, it is that core ETL, build a data warehouse type of example. Next are flows between operational systems. We get into then data integration, but data integration and transformation to support modern BI, self-service analytics, and ad hoc report and query. So that's interesting. I mean, that's third, like data engineering is incredibly important for some of these new things you're doing around visualizing and exploring the data, interacting with it, ad hoc query as well. And then some other just kind of interesting ones in here, master data. You can see that the data science shows up here as well, pretty highly rated. What are some of the features as we dive in a little deeper to data processing and transformation? It's absolutely that I would say these top three are all core ETL type capabilities, the workflow, the alerting and monitoring of it, the transformation capabilities you have to pivot and reshape the data. And then we get into kind of, these are also kind of like transformation types things, merging, replacing of values, combining transformations, ranking. I found it was interesting to see multidimensional OLAP show up when I started in 2000. This was the core like BI and analytics use case. We're going up against Cognos and business objects, and it's like, just show us your OLAP tool, which will give you a cube browser on top of a data warehouse to kind of drill down and drill up and across and filter it and pivot it and visualize it. So still showing up, but certainly, reduced in importance as well. You can kind of see some of those live real-time and streaming sources down there at the bottom. Data engineering, I mean, it's kind of can be a complex subject and topic, but usability is important to data engineering as it has been to things like self-service analytics, self-service data preparation, report development, application development. Of course, usability is extended into this area as well. And you can see at the top of the list, kind of like the simplicity in the user experience to build these workflows is at the top. Then we get into, I mean, I found it interesting, kind of masking and redacting sensitive data was as high as it was. I guess I should not be surprised. And we get into kind of governance here as well. The connectors that I talked about, metadata showing up high as well. So, all of these things probably why. One of the several reasons why we rated highly in this report. And then data engineering sources and targets. I think to me, like no surprises here. You can kind of see relational is at the top of the list in terms of sources and what are also targets, followed by files and then applications and object stores. What I found interesting is kind of the first category where they're more often used as targets than sources are some of these analytical databases like Snowflake, which doesn't surprise me, right? We know like a lot of people are looking to load data into Snowflake in the cloud as well. Where they deployed, again, unsurprisingly, people are looking at the cloud. Private first, public second, then we get to hybrid and on-premises, followed last. So obviously proud that we support all of these capabilities and people are absolutely looking to deploy these capabilities into the cloud. So the good news for those of you that are an IBI or a WebFOCUS customers, a year ago, we looked at really dramatically simplifying our offering around WebFOCUS analytics, and that extends to data intelligence and mainframe as well. But really what we wanted is when you license the WebFOCUS analytics platform, you get access to everything that we have. And that goes for products like Reportcaster and the Designer and the WebFOCUS Hub and DSML services. But it also goes for usage, unlimited environments, cloud rights, access to all of our adapters, and Data Migrator, kind of the product at the heart of our data engineering solution in addition to our data adapters and metadata. So, when you license WebFOCUS, you're getting everything you need to leverage our great data engineering solution without any sort of add-ons or, kind of like metered usage pricing or anything like that. It's just you get it and you get unlimited usage. And if you find that just that the core WebFOCUS adapter metadata and data migrator solution doesn't do 100% of what you need to support your data engineering use cases, remember, we've got the data intelligence solution that can offer up things like application integration through iWay Service Manager that will connect applications. It's great with Exchange data. It's good with messaging, event-driven architectures. It can automate these things, so it can kind of take some of these things to the next level. And then we've also got data quality. So that data's got to be cleansed and standardized before it goes into the warehouse or whatever you're looking to use it for. We've got that capability as well. So I think that's enough from me. Let's look at this in action from Anita George. Anita, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, Porter.
You're welcome.
All right. Greetings, everyone. Before my section is going to focus primarily on Data Migrator. And before I do the Data Migrator, just a little bit of IBI trivia for those who have been using Data Migrator for a while or in the past. As a standalone product, Data Migrator has been around for nearly as long as WebFOCUS. Does anyone know what is the predecessor to Data Migrator? If you know the answer, go ahead and put it in chat. All right. So in the middle of last year, we introduced the IBI platforms queues. With the platforms queues, what we did is we had basically 3 different SKUs, their bundles, and each of those platforms queue contains 2 or more components. The IBI mainframe is for customers using, focus on the mainframe. IBI Analytics for the WebFOCUS customers running WebFOCUS on any platform, really. And IBI Data Intelligence is for customers who have been using our data management capabilities. One thing you'll notice that's common between these 3, or that's present in each of these 3 platform SKUs, is Data Migrator. And we added that to each platform SKU because, as Porter reviewed in his presentation, it is an integral part of your data pipelines, how you build data pipelines, how you consume it. So Data Migrator allows you to extract data from any source, transform the data, and then load it into a target structure. And customers who have been using Data Migrator have been using it for, and these are some of the primary uses of Data Migrator. It was initially developed for creating data marts and data warehouses. And it has deep integration with WebFOCUS. In fact, it's widely used to stage data for use by WebFOCUS. The WebFOCUS metadata is shared by both the reporting server as well as the Data Migrator. And the adapters, the breadth of adapters that are now included as part of any one of these queues the majority of them actually have read-write capabilities. While WebFOCUS primarily utilizes the read capability of these adapters, Data Migrator uses its write functionality. Now, with the adapters, you can directly query the different sources, but it's much faster if you have all the data on one platform, especially if the data is organized for analytics, to build your analytic applications. Data Migrator is also used for application loading. Some applications require that data be available in a specific format. And in some cases, Data Migrator is actually used to extend the life of some of the existing applications because it can do, or it can provide data in the format that is needed. And one of the other use cases is for database conversions or migrations. I know that in many of your organizations, there's probably an ongoing data modernization initiative, and you may be changing both your platforms as well as your databases. And Data Migrator is a very cost-efficient way for these one-time conversions, or also if you want to continue using both some of the older systems as well as the newer systems while they're running in parallel. Just a quick review of the data engineering use cases that the Dresner Survey identified. I'm just going to highlight a few of those. One of these use cases is data engineering is really a part of the data integration, cleansing, and transformation workflows for data warehouse. Another is for data integration and transformation services for ad hoc query, discovery, and exploration analysis. You can highlight all of them, but I'm just showing you a few of these. A third is for migration of data to new systems as a result of re-platforming or shift to the cloud or consolidation. These are the typical use cases for Data Migrator as well. So you can see why Data Migrator is really an integral part of building these data workflows within an organization and why we've added to each of our 3 platform SKUs. So Data Migrator can simplify, automate, and help you develop these engineered data workflows. So to move data from a source to a target, you can accomplish that by creating data flows, process flows, and they can also invoke bulk loaders. In a sense, basically, you can use any combination of these 3 and then maintain the pipelines between your current systems, whether it's your data warehouses, whether it's data lake, data mart, or also for data integration. It has built-in scheduling, logging, auditing, and flow reporting capabilities to support documentation of the data workflows. Yeah, as Porter mentioned, it is an easy-to-use ETL platform to improve the effectiveness of all data workers. And the core capabilities of Data Migrator are, 1, the extensive data connections. With the platform SKUs, any adapter that we've created is now available as part of your platform SKU. There are no more premium adapters. Everything is included. In essence, it lets you connect to pretty much any data source that you may have on-prem or on the cloud. And in keeping with the original product direction about building and supporting the creation of data marts and data warehouses, Data Migrator supports star schemas. It can be used to insert, update, and do delete processing. You can insert records from memory. There's bulk loading capabilities, even something called extended bulk load, and support for slowly changing dimensions as well as change data capture processing. So everything that's needed to build a data warehouse and more is supported, is an inherent capability within Data Migrator. Let's look at data flow. The first aspect of data flow is data integration, being able to get at your different systems to be able to extract data from them. With the extensive data adapters you have access to, you can pretty much access any data within your enterprise, whether it's in the cloud or big data sources. And here are some of those data types or data sources that you can access, both for reporting purposes as well as for data movement. Relational databases, files that may be delimited files, JSON files, XML files. You can access data sources via REST web services. We have connections to ERP and cloud-based systems, as well as big data and NoSQL databases. And you can access pretty much any data that you can access via an ODBC or JDBC connection. So for data integration, we believe our breadth of data adapters will allow you to get at pretty much any data source you want to access. The second component is the data transformation component. When you're building data warehouses and marts, it isn't just about moving data from one source to other in the exact same format. Oftentimes, what you are doing when you're building your warehouses and marts is you want to support some of the analytical needs. Therefore, you may need to join the data or merge different data sets, and all of that capability is included as part of this data transformation within a data workflow that you can build. A data transformation also means that you may want to extend your source schema using virtual columns in the metadata. So that's part of the data transformation. The data transformation can occur on the source end, which is really the metadata. It can also occur when you're doing your data extract, and it can be part of what we call the SQL extract transformation. You can do transformation just before you load into the source. So it supports transformation at any one of these three steps, at the source, after the extract, or just before you load into the target. One unique feature of Data Migrator is that it makes any source appear like a relational table. It doesn't matter what kind of a structure you're accessing. When you build your flow, it's as if it were a relational table. And what that also allows you to do is you can do native SQL calculations and transformations in this middle layer. The third component of a data flow are the load options. As you build your data flows, you can load into an existing target, or you can dynamically create a target using one of the adapters that you have configured in your environment. And for load types, it supports the inserts, the updates, and also the insert records from memory. Extended bulk load is another capability that's available. What it does is it allows you to read the source in parallel, and it creates multiple threads. Again, the database should have a utility that supports extended bulk load, and several of the data connections or adapters that we provide supports that. Not the adapter, but the database supports this extended bulk load. And as part of the load options, you can also identify if it's a slowly changing dimension. I mentioned that the metadata is shared by both the reporting server, that's WebFOCUS for reporting purposes, as well as Data Migrator. And within the metadata, if you look at the properties of the metadata, one of them is the ability to identify a field as a slowly changing dimension. Therefore, there are ways in which you can generate the keys that is needed as you build these slowly changing dimension. It could be a type 1 or type 2 dimension. Now, moving on to process flows. Process flows are a way to do a multi-step, have a multi-step process logic. Essentially, what it allows you to do is control how one or more of these data flows are processed. So when you build a process flow, you have the ability to insert different objects within that flow. Objects like a data flow is one of the objects. Another could be a procedure, a report. Then you can also insert things like an email object. Maybe you want to notify someone if the flow completes successfully or not. And then there is also something called the parallel group. And what this allows you to do is identify a set of flows that you may want to run in parallel. So it's the process flow supports the parallel execution of a number of different data flows. And there are a number of scheduling options available for not just process flows, but for data flows as well. Here's a screenshot of a parallel group. You'll notice that in here, a process flow always has a start, and then these connectors identify the different steps or how you're going, the branching logic, if you will, to run your data flows. When I say data flows, what I meant is your larger data pipelines. So in here, in this parallel group, I have added several different individual data flows. In fact, this is a screenshot of the it's the process flow to load a star schema. So what I've done here is I can simultaneously load multiple dimensional tables. Then I've got a wait object to ensure that all of the dimensional tables have been loaded before we load the fact table. So these are ways in which you can control how the different components are executed. And in this case, the wait logic ensures the dimension tables are populated before the fact table is populated. Looking at the scheduling capability, the scheduling is not just related to process flows. You can do this for data flows as well. It's very similar to how you have Reportcaster to schedule a WebFOCUS report or distribute a WebFOCUS report. In this case, what you're doing is you're scheduling a data flow or a data pipeline, if you will. You can run it once. You can run it multiple times, including several times in a day. And you can also do it when the flow can automatically be scheduled when the server starts. You also have the option of doing like a file, I can have a file listener. So you can do continuous processing or even at scheduled intervals, basically listening for files as they arrive in a specific directory, or whether it could also be in a FTP or SFTP location. And then once the files are read, you can either discard the file, or if you want to, you can archive the files as well. Now, it has built-in monitoring and analysis capability. One thing that I want to mention is this, in the flow properties, there's something called optimized load. I don't have a screenshot here. But when Data Migrator was first developed, it was generally used to copy data from one source or platform to another. For example, DB2 on the mainframe to maybe Oracle on a Linux server. So traditionally, Data Migrator was used to extract data from the source and then load it into Target. But the more recent usage of Data Migrator is not to move data from one platform to another, but it's really to copy data from within the same database, for example, from, say, one SQL Server instance to another. And it can be done a lot faster if you didn't extract data from the database and load it back again, but instead let the database do the work. So these are some of the optimized load capabilities if you are moving data within the same data type or data source. So I think I mentioned real-time processing for for the file listener. The next thing that I want to touch upon is this data management console. Some of you may be familiar with the data management console. Some of you may be hearing about it for the first time. The data management console is a thick client tool, just like App Studio is a thick client tool. And it has been used by administrators and for users to manage different data flow pipelines or data pipelines. So you can look at data flows, you can do process flows, and it also allows you to look at some of the things that you do in the reporting server. For example, as you include or bring in the data into your flow, if you want to profile the data, you've got the ability to do that. You can look at the logs of the log of a job, a data migrated job, and there's documentation. When I say documentation, these are what we call the reporting that's also included as part of it. So the interface looks a little bit different, but essentially what you see in the reporting server console can be viewed from the data management console as well. In a little while, I'll show you both interfaces so you can see how it's very similar in functionality. So to summarize, their Data Migrator's main features are very similar to what you see and have used on the reporting server side. Data Migrator allows you to profile the data. This becomes extremely important as you're building your different data pipelines because you want to understand the quality of the data and some of the uniqueness, if you will, of the data before you start to move it and into a target structure. I remember years ago, uh, as we were talking to a prospect, one of the things they said is, I don't want to take all my data and move it into my data warehouse and then realize that somewhere there was a typo. In their case, the scenario was they were getting claims from claim payments. And I don't know if it was entered via manually entered in a spreadsheet, but they observed that there were some entries, payments that were atypical. Typical claims were a few hundred, few $1,000s, but occasionally we've seen, claims, payments in tens of thousands or millions. And they wanted a way to be able to profile it, kind of get a look at some of the data outliers, if you will, have a process flow to flag those kind of unique records, and then have the rest of the data automatically go through sort of a data flow. So data profiling is a very important aspect of the data migrator capability. With Data Migrator, as we just saw, you can create data flows and process flows. And as you build that, you can visually create your joins and your merges and also do transformation. So it's a simple, easy to use graphical tool. And again, to reiterate something that I stated earlier, irrespective of your data source, when you build these data flows, every data source is represented as if it were a relation, even though it may not be. The data management console has been used a lot by administrators and users. Again, this is to look at various job statistics, and you can drill down into details. Just like your reporting server console, it can be used to stop and start your services or processes. You can manage adapters, you can create metadata. Some of the things that you do on the thin client reporting server console can be done in the data management console as well. And in keeping with the goal of being able to support the build of marts and warehouses, we support change data capture, which means you only transfer records that have changed since the last run of your that particular data pipeline. And the nice thing about it is you still have a single data flow to handle both the initial load, which could be hundreds or millions of records, and then there's a subsequent data flows where you're doing an incremental processing. And it supports pretty much all major relational databases for change data capture. There are many other features, like the support for star schemas and slowly changing dimensions, and the ability to run process flows that include parallel flows of a number of different data flows. And data source, the transparency of making every source appear like a set of relational tables. Why is this important? A number of your data sources may be on different platforms, right? So when you're building a marts, you are trying to extract data from many of these, and having this appear like relational tables makes it easy to do, whether it's a cross-platform view of the data or extract from all of these, legacy or cube or some of the newer data types. Let me pause there, and next, let's actually take a look at both of these interfaces, the data management console as well as the reporting server console. Let's start with the reporting server. So here I'm in the WebFOCUS hub, and I've gone to the application directory, select one of my application directory, and I can see all of the files that are in this application directory. Some of them are master files. There's a different icon that distinguishes the different types of files. But in this directory, or in this application folder, I also have a number of different data flows. They can be procedures and flat files, delimited files, you name it. It's a collection of different types of content. So let's start by looking at some samples in here. The first one that I want to look at is a flow called let's do DM split. You can just double click, and now it opens the flow. Once you have a flow here, this is my data flow. If I want to see a process flow, there's actually a toggle icon on the top, if you're not familiar. So you can switch between the data flow and process flow. The process flow is pretty simple, right? You've got a start, and then you have a single data flow. Let's go back to the data flow. In fact, one thing I want to show you is when you switch to a process flow, you can see how the process flow can have additional elements or components, not just a data flow. It can have a procedure, the email, the parallel group, wait, and so forth. So in this particular data flow, you are taking data from one particular table. Actually, what you're doing is splitting the data and populating one or more target tables. So when you're talking about the movement of data, it isn't necessarily always consolidation. Sometimes you may have a file or a data source that you want to feed one or more target structures. And in this example, that's exactly what we have for loading one or more target structures. I have another example. I believe it is the DM people. Let's just switch to that. This is a little bit different. Here we have two sources. We are doing a union of those. Again, you've got your select, and then you're loading into a target structure. There's a third one. Here we are doing a join, and we mentioned we can do transformations at different stages. You can open the join editor, and as you look at the properties of the join editor, you can actually explicitly bring up the join editor, and now you can see how many, this is an inner join, how many records from the table on the left were included as part of this inner join, and how many were included from the right. So there's a little bit of statistics about the join itself. You can change the join type to left outer, full join, right outer. You can switch between the different join types. There is your SQL select, and then loading into a target. And another example that I want to showcase is a process flow. So notice in here what I have is, again, my start. This is the data flow. And once I've got the data flow, I've got some branching logic here. And it can be color-coded, where if it is successful, I want it to run, in this case, a procedure, like a WebFOCUS report. And if it is not successful, this is where I've added coloring to indicate, a success or failure. I want to be able to send an email and notify someone that this particular this particular data flow failed. So this is how you expand, or you can build processes to have branching logic, and you can do one of many different things. Conditional styling will let you visually look at what happens on success versus what to do if there's a failure condition for, in this case, a data flow. So this is looking at data flows and process flows from the reporting server side. Let's take a look at the data management console. This is the thick line interface that I talked about. The exact same example we looked. I've got two source tables that I'm loading into the target. We mentioned we can do transformations at different stages of this data flow. So if I look at this particular source table, you'll notice there are some, in this case, defined fields. These are, again, what we're doing is we're augmenting the metadata by creating these virtual columns. Virtual columns are really data transformations too. So here, data transformation is occurring on the source side. It could be in the metadata, or you could actually do it as part of this, as you're building it. Then when you look at, I believe I have data transformation on table 2 as well. Here you notice we're using a function where the data that's in this table is probably an order date. and we can extract the year, month, quarter components of the order date to make those separate fields as you load your target. Very nice if you want to do aggregation at different time intervals. This is the SQL extract. On the left are the available columns from the combination of the two tables. On the right is the columns that you have selected from the two. I mentioned that one thing that Data Migrator does is make every source appear like it were a relational table. Notice it's identifying the fields coming from table 1 versus table 2. In this case, as part of my SQL extract, I've got a calculation that is combining fields from both of my source tables to do this particular calculation. And then this is my target. On the left are the columns in my target structure. On the right are the columns that have been selected as part of my SQL select. You'll notice that the target actually has one additional field that is not in my SQL extract, a field called profit. So as part of my source transformation, as part of the transformation prior to load, we can actually do a calculation that says, if you want to load into profit, what I want to do is take these two that are part of my SQL extract, and the difference between that goes into this target table into the field called profit. So it supports transformation at different stages of this data flow that you build. Let's take a look at some other examples. This is loading the customer dimension. This is one of the dimensional tables that make up one of my star schemas. And the reason I just brought this up is because when you look at this, actually what I want to do is let's look at the properties of my target. You'll notice the load type here. I've identified this as a slowly changing dimension. When I talked about load types, I said we can support inserts, updates, inserts from memory, extended bulk load. But there's also an option where you can identify this dimension as part of a my target table is part of a slowly changing dimension. So what is unique about a slowly changing dimension, right? I mean, you have newer data coming in, which means there's something in my metadata that makes this a little bit unique. So let's go back to the reporting server and look at this particular metadata file. I think this is my metadata. Yeah, that's correct. This is my metadata for my customer dimension. And let's look at the properties of this key field. The metadata, it is the holy grail of, I would say, WebFOCUS. And the reason I say that is, yes, it is an added step before you can do anything with a data source. You have to create the metadata. But the metadata is not just describing the different elements in your data source. It actually has a lot of features. And one of the features is when you expand the miscellaneous section, there is one called SCD type, slowly changing dimension type. And you can tell, and you can select what type of key you want to use. In this case, this is a surrogate key for this customer key field that makes up this customer dimension table. So you see how there are characteristics in the WebFOCUS metadata that were added to really support the creation and the load of data marts. So having selected this as SCD type, now when I go to my data flow, one of my load type is identifying this as a slowly changing dimension. There's such a tight integration between Data Migrator and the WebFOCUS reporting server. It is the reuse of the metadata. There are things that were introduced in the metadata to really support some of the capabilities of Data Migrator. So when you have one of these process flows or data flows, if you will, I mentioned there are things that you could do. For example, one of my data flows, these are all my data flows. one thing that I could do is look at logs. Okay, look at the last log. When was the last time it was run? If a record return code is 0, it means it's successful, right? So as I'm running this and I'm viewing all the jobs that have been scheduled or yet to be scheduled, I can actually go down and look at the logs and more details about these flows. So some of the things that we could do on the reporting server are very similar to what you're doing here on the data management console side as well. So we looked at this log. We actually looked at this flow. We can also look at the load of one of my, let's see, I have a load of the fact table. Okay, so again, I could have opened this using the reporting server side as well. And what you'll notice in here is for loading the fact, I'm actually doing a join of 3 tables, take the results of this join it to another before I load it into the fact. There are different types of flows going back to the reporting server side again. One of the things that I wanted to showcase here is I mentioned you have the option to actually look at some of, let's cancel this, some of the reports that's available as part of like the data flow process. So let's look at this. Let's close out of here. Yep. And go back and I'm going to remove my filter. So we've got all of the samples. Look at this DM flow. As I highlight this, we looked at logs on the data management side, the exact same available from the reporting server console. There is also the analysis report and the flow report. The flow report tells me everything about the flow. When you create these flows, you need to have a good documentation that identifies what's my source, what's my target, and all the details. And very quickly, this report actually shows me when it was created, the source type, that's the SQL Server, what is the connection that I used. This is one of my adapter connections. Everything you need to know about what source was used, connections. Notice the SQL statement. This SQL statement would be identical no matter what source type you use. Again, the consistency of being able to sort of look at it as if it were relational. And then the target information. This happens to be an existing target. For prior to load, I want to delete all records from the table. But maybe for another job, what I want to do is append to the table, not delete. All of that is included in this documentation. There are other types of documentation available. In analysis report, you can also do things like data lineage. So here, as we look at this particular DM flow, it shows me what are the columns that were used and the usage. It was used in a join. It was used in a filter, and it identifies really these are the specific fields that were part of this query. So that's another report that you have access to. And again, there's impact analysis. And I think, what did we look at? Dependency analysis, right? This is my source, my target, and the flow properties report will actually give me a lot more details about the flow itself. So what I've tried to do, what we've tried to showcase here today is some of you have only been using WebFOCUS, but you may not be aware that from within the reporting server interface, as you select one of your data sources, you can actually start to build data flows. And as you build the data flow, you can convert it from a data flow to a process flow. So if I select any of my table, for example, this one, and I can say create a flow, by default, it's going to create a data flow for me. But if I want to do a process flow instead, I can always switch to a process flow, look at the different components that I can add into this process flow, and then really build my different data pipelines. So let me pause there and open it up for questions, and we can take any questions that you have. Thank you.
Great. Anita, there is one in the Q&A for you.
Okay.
I'm going to take a look at that one.
Yep. Let me stop my share. So that's an interesting one, Paul. That was kind of the use case that I wanted to kind of build out, where like when we were talking to this uh, at that point a prospect, one of the things they wanted to do was sort of profile the data, and it's just as a condition, right? Let's take the example of actually, I didn't quite build this out. I wanted to include that in today's, but I decided to focus on just interface rather than kind of building it out. But what you can do is really create perhaps a procedure, right? And the procedure is show me all, give me all the records where the claim amount is less than a certain threshold that I've put forth. And I can have a branching there that says, if it is more, I want to do something. If it is less, I want to do something different. So to answer your question, it isn't just about a load. Remember, when you're building process flows, you can include procedures as well as data flows. Okay, so hope that answers your question. Yes, Alias, yes. You can absolutely use Data Migrator to pull data from multiple sources as part of the join. Just keep in mind, when you do join and you are going against, in this particular example, two very different types of data, you may need WebFOCUS to be able to hold it and do all of your processing, right? So sometimes it actually helps when you extract from one, kind of hold it, and then extract from, and you can do it as by focus doing the hold and then joining to another, but you can do it directly as part of a single flow process as well, the heterogeneous joins. So we have, to answer Eric's question, maybe I should type it in. Let me just answer it live. To address Eric's question, we have a nice documentation on Data Migrator. It's a Data Migrator user document that explains all of the different components, even how to do data flows and process flows. So yeah, it's a good one to use. The other recommendation that I have for you is on the reporting server, when you click on the plus data, there's an option to load tutorials. And there are, I believe, 3 or 4 data migrator tutorials. Most of the flows that I showcased today are from the data migrator tutorials. So that's another good example of looking at flows that were built and then, using that as a learning tool, if you will, to create additional ones.
Excuse me. Any other questions for Anita or Porter? Okay, we'll give y'all a second to still submit those if you have any. But in the meantime, thank you again, Anita. Thank you, Porter, for coming on today and presenting and being a part of the user group. Just as a reminder, guys, we did record this session, and any of the material that the presenters can share, I will include in my follow-up email to you guys, along with a link to the recording. When I conclude the meeting, a link will pop up for the evaluation form. If you wouldn't mind spending just a couple of minutes filling that out for us, your feedback is greatly appreciated, so that we can continue planning these user groups around content that you guys want to see. So it's really important that you fill those out for us. If you have any questions regarding Summit or user groups or any of the material that you saw today, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We are here to help you. And on that note, if there are no additional questions, I'll give you guys a few minutes of your time back But we hope you found this really valuable today, and we look forward to seeing you next month.